Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Chill Film Discussion. This is episode 36. Um, and this is our stream where we kind of just discuss films. Me and my friend here, Austin. We kind of just talk about the films that we watch, what we like, what we don't like, how we can make it better, or how we think we could make it better for ourselves. If we didn't like it. But yeah. There are no rules. We just talk and discuss.
Yeah.
So yeah, today's episode is we are discussing a film called The Imitation Game. And the film is a 2014 British historical drama film. It's directed by Morten Tyldum, probably mispronouncing his name, but it is actually based on the 1983 biography of Alan Turing.
Yeah.
And yeah, this film is basically about Alan Turing and his ventures in breaking Enigma during World War II. Enigma being the encryption machine that the Germans used to encrypt their messages for all the communication. And yeah, I mean this movie it has star-studded cast. I won't name everyone, but basically Alan Turing is played by Benedict Cumberbatch. So if you're a fan of his, I'm already just gonna say you'll like this movie. What I guess overall this film, like, I really enjoyed in terms of like the acting. I think like Benedict Cumberbatch, who plays Alan Turing, did a phenomenal job depicting the role. Keira Knightley, who plays Joan Clark, his seemingly love interest, but it turns out to be like more of like a very, very strong platonic friendship, also did a phenomenal job. I love seeing their relationship on screen. Sort of turns its head over in terms of like the traditional like relationship between a male and female lead.
Right.
Mainly because like Alan Turing is gay, so like of course they can't really have that same like romantic or sexual relationship. But I don't know. In terms of emotional and mental, like they were great. They were fantastic for each other, I think. And their acting definitely like portrayed that relationship very well, in my opinion. I think overall, like the pacing and the plot were execution of those aspects of the story were well done, like very well done. It definitely got the sense of like the sort of gravitas of the situation with all the the war and everything, and all the deaths. There's a lot of like imagery of like I think maybe like real historical imagery of like the war going on. They kind of cut to those in between. It sort of like reminds you that this is as time progresses, there are casualties. So I think that was a nice touch, to sort of like really give the audience in a sense like a sense of urgency that like this is really important. I think there was a bit in terms of like small gripes that I have. I think the beginning with the narration was didn't really need it. I don't know. Not a huge fan of narration in the beginning of a film, because could be used. There could be more resources built to actually like really fully utilize cinematography or cinema in general to like storytell. And narration is, in my opinion, not the best way to do that. And then also there was a whole subplot with a detective scene that was sort of interweaved throughout the film. Sort of just like because it's like that's the present day, and Alan Turing or Benedict Cumberbatch's character is telling a detective like the story, which is what he's recounting the past, which is like the main story that we see as the audience. I think that maybe there are bits and parts of it that didn't need to happen, although there was an important scene at the end with an interview where there's a big payoff in terms of the thematic significance of this film. So having that at the end is definitely, I think, still needed, but like having the scenes interweaved in the middle, maybe not necessary. But yeah, I think overall, like this was a very well done film, well executed, well told, well acted. Um, I I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would like highly recommend um, it to anyone who wants to watch. Even if you're not into like history or anything, if you're just like just a good story, like a good film in general,
Yeah.
like with good storytelling, I think this is a fantastic film. So yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Um, for me, I think kind of echo a lot of the things that you said. Great. I do love like historical fiction. I realize, it's a very simple storyline. Jim trying to
yeah,
break Enigma, and once they finally do, it's very it's a very satisfying moment too, just because they're all going toward it, and, just figuring out. I think that's the most satisfaction. That's one of the most satisfying things in this movie, is just seeing them complete it. But yeah, I love just the way the storyline was going at. I love the character interactions and just the plot, and just them just focusing really on that. Um, I think for me, some of the gripes is just the way that how the character relationships kind of developed. I thought it's kind of maybe developed too quickly, especially them trying to accept Alan turning. I just thought it could have been a little bit developed a little bit more faster than just one instance. That's just for me personally. I just wanted to see something a little bit more gradual, or just a little bit more screen time to that element.
hmm
Um, I think at the same time, resolution to the whole with Commander Deniston. I think I just wanted to see a little
yeah,
more of that, just because that was he was a big artistic force, and he was the one giving the deadline. Just seeing some kind of resolution, like how do they handle that? How do they handle getting the information around it? Because he would obviously use it to win the war, but they realized right when the main themes and plots afterwards that came up, it's like how do we use this information? Do we save lives, or
yeah,
do cherry picking that kind of whole with the
right,
whole detective storyline? So I
for
would
sure.
love to see a resolution, and I think that was a big part of the movie too. Um, you also said something about the detective storyline. I also didn't, at least I didn't see the point of it, throughout the film interwoven. But I agree that that whole big payoff at the end with the interrogation, him wanting being judged, I thought was great line, great. It had it was a very significant scene, and I wouldn't mind having it at the beginning and end, but just
Yeah,
having it throughout, it just felt when I was watching it, I didn't know why it was there
mm,
until the very end. Um, but I think those were the biggest gripes, and just kind of bothered me. The acting was great, the dialogue was great, and there's some parts that was really funny, and I
oh yeah,
laughed, I
yeah,
enjoyed it.
yeah,
So very very fun. And then what I really like, enjoy the scenes. I think the character interactions between Joan and Alan, right? Just those two, how they interacted and just how the relationship developed was really really nice, but kind of a breath of fresh air, just because they're kind of platonic, right?
yeah,
We think it's a love interest, but it's not, and
yeah,
just how it turned. And you just watching this movie,
hmm
it was great. There's a lot of like twists here. It's not like anything that's like big and shocking, but some of the twists were there, which is enjoyable. So one of them, him being like being gay, this who the spy turned out to be, right?
yeah,
Or just even like how they kind of dealt with the war afterwards. Just the little twist here and there that kind of makes sense. Enjoy it. And I think one of the biggest ones actually was the reveal. And at least for me, I didn't maybe pick it up. Just the reveal, like she mean the computer is named Christopher after one of his schoolmates who really loved, and how he was kind of bottling up this emotion, and then he finally lets it out at the end. It's very cathartic, right? Just how he
yeah,
releases and whatnot. And really, it's a very powerful scene that I really enjoyed. But overall, I really like this movie, historical fiction and all. Just there's some few things that maybe in terms of its execution, but
hmm
that would have changed. But yeah, overall, just a great movie that I also would definitely recommend.
yeah. And something I want to add real quick that I thought of that I really appreciate this about this film is that it is titled The Imitation Game. So initially, it's all about breaking Enigma and trying to
Yeah,
build a machine to break Enigma, but it's a very nice segue into the latter half of the or the final third of the film where it's actually more about Turing, like whether or not like there's a whole theme about man versus machine, and there's this whole
yeah,
like concept
yeah.
about like his character, whether or not he's man or machine. Like that's the
Right,
whole that's this whole that's sort of like it still fits along the theme of like this concept of the imitation game, whether or not like the thing that he's building is just because it's a machine doesn't mean that you know like just because it's different doesn't mean that like it thinks differently. Like it can still think does it just because it thinks differently in some sense.
right.
Um, and it's sort of like it's a nice segue of like this I guess exploring this sort of theme of man versus machine. Um, even despite the fact like in the beginning it's like more simple. Like it's like, oh yeah, we're just trying to break an enigma, but actually it turns out to be like a lot more complicated. So it's a nice progression of like, I don't know, the story building up in terms of its complexity from the
Definitely.
beginning to the end. That's something I
Yeah.
also really liked. And it wasn't
Yeah. They kind
forced. It wasn't forced. It was like
it
it
kind of
was
evolved, right? Yeah.
evolved. It evolved throughout the game. So yeah, cool. Yeah. So yeah, let's do our final ratings, and then after that, we'll end it from there. But
Yeah.
I would give this film a 9. Um,
9.
yeah, it is a fantastic film. I mean, I have some small gripes, but like for the most part, I wouldn't change um, most of the film in general. I think at its core is a very solid story, and I really enjoyed it.
Personally, I think I'd give it an 8.
Yeah,
Very,
yeah.
very, very enjoyable. I think
There's enough to
yeah,
change.
there's enough changes that I would do that would I think improve my watching experience. I mean, it was no doubt about a great movie, and I highly recommend it to anyone to watch it, just because it's
Yeah.
still great. But just a
Hmm.
few things that I really think would make the film better for me. But
Yeah.
I did enjoy historical fiction and all, just the story. It's very well done movie too. Well crafted storyline. So
Sweet. Well,
yeah.
there's our recommendations. Or sorry, those are our ratings. We both would recommend it. If you if you take our discussion seriously, I suppose we're no experts of,
Yeah.
but we try our best, I suppose. Just it's all chill and everything. Awesome. Well, with that, we'll see you on December 5th
December
at
5th.
11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time because daylight
Yeah,
savings just ended. So
that's true.
cool. All right. See you guys later.
Bye.